2A community, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Robert Linkul, trainingtheolderadult.com. This is Wednesdays with Robert, episode number 26. Man, we're starting to log up quite a bit of these. Hopefully, you're getting some good information from these videos and enjoying us putting these up every week. I enjoy doing them, and I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper look. So I'll give you a little backstory on this. During a training session yesterday, a client of mine said, how do we know, she didn't say that, she said, how do we select appropriate load in terms of, should I be lifting, trying to achieve the heaviest weight I can, or should I be lifting for a medium weight but with more repetitions? And this is a client who is, early to mid 60s and has had shoulder surgery, a hip replacement, has some ailments, but works super hard to rehabilitate herself. So a very valid question, right, through this aging process. So I want to kind of deep dive that. And the article that I'm going to reference, it's old. I mean, it's from 2011, and there's information in here that's super relevant and very pertinent to the discussion, and has only been reinforced in more recent research. We've looked at a couple of those articles in the last few weeks. So I wanted to kind of go back to one of the first, but one that really addressed it here and give a little bit of context to it, and then kind of move in from there, okay? And let's see if we can answer that question. The intensity and effects of strength training in the elderly. Pretty general topic here in discussion, but really looking at the benefits of resistance training for elderly bodies and with what load, okay, what intensities. So with this, they kind of start off talking about muscle strength gradually decreases from the 30th year of life. That's where we kind of meet our peak. And I'm going to show you the muscle mass sarcopenic curve and how it overlaps with bone density curve, and both of those kind of create this disability threshold, how training keeps us away from that, etc. But right around 30 is when you really start to kind of meet your peak abilities in strength, in bone density, in power production, in max potential for performance, really. Now, there are outliers for sure that are earlier or a little bit later, but on average, okay, that bell curve is going to hit its peak, its mean, right around 30. From there, from 30 until 50, you're going to see a little bit of a decrease, right? But then from 50 on, entering the sixth decade of life, you're going to start to see this decrease. And the question becomes, how steep of a decrease, do we get into? And as your performance naturally is going to, your ability to produce strength and power and to be able to do the athletic things you could do at 30, at 50 are going to start to decline naturally, no matter what. I mean, the only way to maintain or be even close is to use a lot of substances that would create an unnatural response. Assuming that most people aren't going to do that, right? You're going to have this natural decline right around 50 that can either take a steep drop off or it can just start to gradually kind of taper. But either way, we're creating this declined angle of, max potential performance, strength, power, etc. Okay. So kind of keeping that in mind, if you decrease strength, balance, function, power, all that, you're going to create greater opportunities for injury and falls and et cetera. So what they did here was they looked at several studies showing strength or resistance training and how it can counteract aging and age-related impairments. Crucial factor in maintaining strength capacity is an increase in muscle mass. So the base root focus is develop and gain and maintain as much muscle mass on your body as you can, as early as you can. If you start lifting at 30 and build just a shit ton of muscle onto your body, okay? And then let's say from 30 to 40, you lift hard, 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 and then at 40, you just stop lifting. You'll carry more muscle mass through the next 4 or 5 decades than anybody that didn't train during that time, right? Well, that of course, but my point being is you can lift really hard for a period of time, build muscle mass, and you're not gonna lose those muscle fibers. They're just gonna shrink, right? Like you've built new muscle fibers now. You have laid down new piano wires into, this striation of fiber. And if you stop training really hard, does that mean those fibers like go away? No, they just reduce in size. But at any point, you can start to train those again and they'll start to come back. So that's the beauty of like, hey, we got to do this when you're a little younger and like put down as much work, as many lines as we can now. So as the aging process goes, you're either going to maintain that ability or have slight decreases in it, but we don't want to just not have them at all. Now, the studies like this will showcase that even in like the 8th decade of life, well, more recent studies showed into the 9th decade of life, deconditioned, untrained individuals can start to build muscle mass. So the bottom line is it's never too late. It's never too late to start to build muscle mass. However, the earlier you do this, the better. And the greater potential to gain muscle mass and maintain that muscle mass is there. Additionally, an increase in muscle activity and frequency during isometric and dynamic muscle work has been observed. So what does that mean? Let's take a little bit deeper look here. It basically shows that strength training in the elderly, 60 or higher, increases muscle strength by increasing muscle mass, by improving recruitment of motor units, by increasing their firing rate. So you're going to build more muscle mass, you're going to create a faster, more dynamic muscle that is going to be a little more explosive and reactive. So as we start to age, instead of your gait getting smaller, you getting slower, becoming less stable, you can maintain that big gait, that long walking stride that you have, and your feet can dynamically turn over and move quickly. If you stagger, step, catch your toe on something, you can be dynamic and move quick and catch yourself rather than not having the motor unit to fire the muscle quickly to get you to do that, okay? We talk about spatial awareness and fall prevention and its connection to muscle mass. What we talk about, and the example I give all the time, you have a little lip that goes into your driveway, and that little lip just keeps water running by your driveway. So it's high enough that it'll deter water, but it's not so high that if you drive over it, it's this big bump. So many people catch their toe on that little thing. So many people, more than a 6-inch curb. Everybody sees the 6-inch curb. No one sees the little 1 or 1/2 inch little lip that keeps that water running by. So people will be walking with their trash cans or whatever it is, and they catch their toe on that. Boop. And it doesn't trip them. What it does is it stops their foot in its natural gait, and your momentum goes over the top. Now, your center of mass has now shifted beyond its frame, right over your belly button, and now it's propelling itself forward, but the stilt that you have underneath it that keeps you upright, it didn't go forward, okay? It got stuck and is now behind a little bit. So now where your balance of your TP is here, you've started to tilt this thing over, and the leg that needs to throw out to catch is behind, okay? So your mind goes, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. You send this signal from your brain. This all happens super quick. And it goes all the way down to all the muscles in your legs and your feet. And it goes, yo, throw your leg out. We normally take a 2.5 or a 3 foot long stride. Right now, I need you to take a 4 foot stride because we're behind in the count. We are not, in the normal position. You got to go further. But your body is not capable of doing that because you don't train that way. You're like, no, I take 2.5, maybe 3 foot long strides. I never do a 4 foot stride. I don't know how to do a 4 foot stride. I'm 60 years old and I haven't taken a lunge step in 35 years. So when that moment comes, the body goes, do it. And then when you go to do it, your foot only goes out 2.5 feet. Well, was that enough for that stilt to stop the momentum? No. You needed 3.5, 4 feet. So what's happened now is your body started to tilt. You threw a leg out. You even take 2 steps to try to get ahead of that momentum. And all you're doing is accelerating that fall. So you have 2 options. Right from the get-go, I'm falling. and just ride it to the ground, knowing that slow motion timber, I'll probably do less damage if I just fall down now. But how many of us are going to be cognitively aware and cognizant in that moment to go, I don't think I can throw my left leg out at this 35-degree angle to stop my forward propulsion and be able to decelerate and drive myself back to a vertical standing upright position via a heel dominant quad and glute eccentric contraction. Our brains don't work that quick, right? So they're like, I'm just going to ride this thing to the ground and I'll be fine. We don't have that ability to do it that fast. We naturally go, don't fall down, don't fall down. And so we try to take these 2 steps, but they're short step, short step. They're quick, they're short. Momentum has tilted over the top. So all we've done now is accelerated how hard we hit the ground, making that fall harder, causing more damage, more detriment. I was looking at the CDC website right before we went on. I was going to take pictures of it, but I think I've shown it before. Anyhow, they show fall increase has only grown from the 50s. Every single year, it's getting worse and worse and worse. More people falling, more people falling. Yes, we're living longer. Our average age now, I think it's between 71 and 76 where the average American dies. It used to be like 67 to 70. So we're living longer. However, more people are living in a poorer quality of life due to medications and surgeries that keep them alive, but they're not as able or capable as they were before. So yes, you're living longer, but what's the quality of the life that you're living? That's where the question comes in. Do you want to just be stuck and be bedridden or have such poor abilities that it's like, yeah, I'm not dead, but I'm not living either. I'm just not dying, basically, is what's occurring now. Now I just get to sit here because I can't walk. I fractured my hips. I blew apart my back or whatever it is. Now, I know I'm maybe being a little dramatic, but you would be shocked how many of these falls occur. 95% of the falls for those 65 and over occur in a fracture. And then of that 95, it was like 80% are severe, meaning that life-altering, right? Life-altering. And that's at age 65. Imagine in the 70s and 80s. It's even higher, okay? And then the number of deaths that occur from those falls are just climbing and climbing. The number one way to die at home, I think it said, was via fall. And anyway, you kind of get my point. It's like we have to take fall risk and fall impacts as a very serious thing. Almost every one of the people that I've encountered in the last 5 to 10 years that has passed away at an old age had a fall pre that quick decline before their death. And so we know that these are kind of criterias almost for end of life. And we don't want it to be. We want people to be able to, as we constantly say, go out with your boots on, 102, heart attack, dead, right? Very, very quick. You live this big, full, great life, no suffering at the end. It's just lights out. And then we're on to whatever is next, whatever we all think is next. So how do we prevent and how do we create a dynamic ability in an aging body to keep these falls from occurring, or at least throw that foot out and be able to slow the fall to where when you do fall, you are so close to rescuing it, right? You still fall down, but you are now muscularly dense enough, bone-wise dense enough to survive the fall with just bruises and a busted nose or whatever it is, but you didn't break anything. That's the secondary prize. That's the silver lining to, well, I couldn't save the fall, but I didn't break my hip in it. Great news. And even if you do fall, even if you do break something, how quickly will you rehabilitate and gain your ability because you had strong bones, you have strong muscle mass, you have coordination and reaction time, and you've had all these things that you've built that are well above where the average person your age is. We're talking the difference from poor quality of life to normal quality of life, 10%, 15% at age 70, 80, okay? Again, guesstimating numbers. Anyhow, muscle mass increases can be done through training intensities corresponding around 60 to 85% of an individual's maximum voluntary strength. So we look at that, and that's basically a couple different ways that we can look at it. This is a 6 to an 8.5 on your RPE, rate of perceived exertion. Okay, and this is where we're going to get into answering what kind of load and what's ideal to lift as we go through this process, as we go through the aging process. So a 6 to an 8, 6 to an 8.5, somewhere around in there on a 1 to 10 scale, rate of perceived exertion. You can also look at that and say somewhere between a 2 and a 4 reps in reserve, RIR. We're going to talk about that a little bit deeper as well. And then knowing that these higher intensities, because you are lifting heavier loads, okay, are going to benefit you, a higher intensity somewhere up around 80 to 85 is kind of ideal if you're able to do so. And in doing so, the increases that you're going to make, the gains that you'll make for a young person versus an older person versus an elderly person basically are the same across the board. The amount of gain can be occurred by training these intensities, doesn't really matter the age. So this is one of those like one size fits all training strategies. It's going to benefit no matter the age. It's just what exercises are we selecting, which ones are most appropriate, how to properly load it, etc. It is now recommended that healthy older adults should train 3 to 4 times a week, okay, for best results. Persons with poor performance on the outset can achieve improvements even with less training frequencies. Side effects are rare. So we saw pretty big gains with my dad training 1 day a week, okay? He had another day of homework that I gave him with bands and some body weight, and he did lots of sit to stands. That was his favorite thing. And he did those often at home. But was he like, hey, I'm gonna go work out now at home? No. He basically did one really hard workout with me a week, and then he practiced other things throughout the week. But because his one workout made him feel so good, and he did gain strength, especially the next 2 days, he's like, I feel on top of the world. Like he thrived off of that energy. From Wednesdays to Fridays, the guy was on fire, okay? Wednesday we work out, Thursday, Friday, it was on fire. And he would just go and do all this stuff. Well, because he felt strong and had more energy and all this, he started to do more things throughout his regular daily activities, thus making him more capable and able, right? So now he's got 3, maybe even 4 days of pretty high activity. Then he would start to kind of taper down the next couple of days, and then he'd be back in here and we'd ramp him back up again. Now imagine if you tacked on another workout. If he did Wednesday workouts with me and Saturday workouts with me or at home, how much improvement we would have had. So literally 2 workouts a week could do massive gain. If one did that with my dad, imagine what 2 would have done. And so they're suggesting 3 or even 4, right? And this could be some kind of split if you wanted to train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, something like that, upper push, upper pull, or whatever, right? There are all kinds of options you can do in there. Progressive strength training in the elderly is efficient, even with higher intensities, to reduce sarcopenia and retain motor unit function, motor function. So I really liked seeing that at, almost 15 years ago, research article, 14 years ago, whatnot, that kind of showcases, hey, we're seeing this at any age. The more recent research study, the one I just looked at last week, the one that was in the Washington Post, looked at that same thing, but then specifically looked at people over the age of 85, and yep, it worked for them too. So I don't think the discussion anymore is resistance training good for all ages? I think the question becomes, how do we apply it for the aging body? And how do we select load, right? What exercises are we specifically selecting for the aging bodies? And how do we select load for that? Because naturally, if I'm 20, 30, 40 years old, loading heavy weight onto my back is an option. With 60, 70, 80-year-old deconditioned, untrained individuals, is that a smart option? It's always an option, but is it a smart option? I personally don't think so. I think you have arthritis, you have degeneration, you have all these limitations, all these things for 7 or 8 decades now have worn the body down to then try to back load, spine load, get your arms back into that. Okay, let's say we use a safety bar and we're gonna hold on in front, but still loading the back half of the spine like that. That could be a detriment based on just the exercise we're selecting and how to load it. Now, is the squat a bad idea? No, it's a great idea. Is the box squat a bad idea? No, it's a fantastic idea. I love sit to stands, box squats, whatever you want to call them. How do we load it? Okay, can we belt load that? Could I front load that with a kettlebell down between my knees? Could I do a lighter goblet version of that? For sure. Am I going to be able to load as heavy of a load as I could if I were to bar? No, not in the goblet, not in the belt, maybe in the belt, right? But is that the most safe and effective for this aging body? Is that for someone? No, it's definitely not the safest way to do it. So we have to take that into account. We do understand that training with these heavier loads and training smartly as we go is not only on all the volumes, reps, sets, loads, tempos, recovery, but exercise selection itself. We have to be smart with that and how we implement it and how we practice it. Now, if you are lifting weights your entire life, you're The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. The Rock's like 53 years old, 55 years old. Joe Rogan's 53, 56 years old, whatever they are, right? These guys have been lifting their entire lives. So they have a different skill set going into their 60s, right? As they get there, they're going to be able to continue doing those styles of lifts because they've been doing it their whole life. You take somebody at 75 who's never lifted weights before and try to get a bar on their back, they're going to have a really hard time doing that. You may cause more damage and more harm than good. Can they even get the bar into position, let alone load it, right? But anybody, almost anybody, can hold a weight down between their knees or put on a belt and let it dangle off their hips, okay? So keep that in mind. Exercise selection, just as important as load, reps, sets, tempos, all that as we go across. So now let's answer the question. Now we know like the intensities, right? The loads that we want to work with, somewhere between a 6 and an 8, 6 to 8.5 on an RPE, or somewhere with a 2 to 4 RIR, reps in reserve. So that's what we want to talk about now. Shout out to NASM. I haven't referenced a whole lot of NASM articles, but this one was pretty decent. Okay, most lifters are familiar with calculating 1 rep max, and this is a little chart they had in there that helps you. If I can do 100 pounds once, just one time, that means I could do like 95 twice. I could do 90 3 times. I could do 85 4 or 5 times. Like there's kind of a correlation between here's your maximal load and then how many reps you can do with lighter loads. The load goes down while the rep count goes up, okay, more or less. So you can calculate if I did 50 pounds for a set of 10 and I'm like 10, I can't do an 11th rep. You can look at that chart and go, okay, he did 50 pounds for 10 reps. He has a 100-pound 1 rep or whatever, whatever it comes out to. That kind of thing. You could project these without actually doing them. That's a fairly safe way to get a projected 1 rep without actually doing one. But is that a great philosophy to try to do 1 rep maxes with aging bodies? No, I think you're rolling the dice on that too. Are the projected reps a good way to go? Sure. But I would train a couple of months before I really try to pursue those. Like, hey, let's find a true 8 or 10 rep max to where you literally cannot do another one. I would train a good 2 months, 8 to 12 weeks maybe, to get that neurological response, get your body used to building up some base strength. So when you give that max effort, you don't take a 75-year-old and rip a muscle off the bone or do something terrible, which definitely can occur if they are deconditioned and undertrained or non-trained at all. So when you start to look at that and you're like, am I going to do that with somebody? No. So how can we calculate an RIR, reps in reserve, or create a style of like, hey, here's the appropriate load for what I'm attempting to lift right now. And then we'll kind of finish up with how will I know if that load's appropriate, not just because of reps in reserve, but also an overall outcome. I'll tell you what I mean in a minute. So I like this example. You're doing bench press and you do 10 reps. When you finish, you know you could have done 2 more reps, okay, with good form before failing. That's the key to this, is the good form, because I could put 100 pounds on a barbell and you start to deadlift it. And at 8, you start rounding your back and tucking your butt and your knees start to collapse. But you could probably do 8 more like that, but it's going to damage you. It's going to hurt you, but you could do it, right? So you just start peeling the bar up and your body's just folding and buckling and shaking, but you could do it. So do I look at that and go, well, he had 8 reps in reserve? Or do I go, hey, try to fix that posture. You get 9, it's okay, it's a little better. You get 10, hey, let's stop right there. When did we really buckle and fail under good technique? You did it 8. How many more reps did you get after that? 2 more, and then it got ugly enough to where I'm now concerned that more damage will occur than good. I could look at that and go, you had like 1 or 2 RIR, reps in reserve. Ideally, you would do 8 really good lifts, 9 and 10 you could have done with that same technique, but you shut it down at 8 because we wanted a true 2-rep RIR, reps in reserve, which means with that good technique. Do we ever want to get to a point where you're lifting with the poor technique? Not really. Okay. Ideally, we'd always kind of work with the best technique possible. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to push ourselves. It just means as soon as technique starts to fail, that means your body is no longer strong enough to hold the proper positions or the safest position to lift in. So now your risk capacity jumps up, but you're still working at these high capacities. So your opportunity to make gains also goes up. So you're kind of in this spot where like, hey, every risk with every rep we take, it goes up a little bit, but they're getting a little stronger by actually doing that. And you have to make this decision. Usually the coach has to make this decision at some point and go, why don't we stop right there? That's probably about an 80%, 85% effort. I'm pretty happy with that. We're going to get great results there. Could we have pushed for 1 or 2 more reps and really pushed it up towards the top and have that technique like right on the edge of falling apart? Probably, but do we want to risk that opportunity? What if you fail and your back goes out? If you fail and your shoulder you know what I mean? I'm going to the most damaging things, but those things can occur. So if I can always have like 2 to 4 reps in reserve, that's gonna give me somewhere around that 70 to 80%, effort. And I don't need to know what 70 or 80% is. I don't need to go through and go, well, my 1 rep is 100, so I need to work with 75 to 80 pounds to have a true 70 to 80% effort, right? We don't have to go through that if we lift whatever the weight is, and then I go, how many more do you think you could have done without that technique failing? And you say, 2, maybe 3. And I'm like, perfect. Okay. Now, every once in a while, do we want to test that? Do we want to go, okay, here's your 8, give me 2 more. And they do 9, 10. And they're like, could you do another one? And you're like, probably not. And you're like, okay, set it down. And then you set that down. And you're like, okay, that was a 2 rep in reserve. That's exactly what we wanted. Now we kind of know, all right, this weight you just lifted, that's about an 8. Okay. That's about what we're looking for in this. You had 2 reps in reserve. So that is a way to kind of correlate or kind of think about those things. And there you go. 8, very hard, 2 reps remaining or 2 reps in reserve, all the way down to 4. That's going to give you right around like a 6 in our intensity or a 60% 60% of your 1 rep or a 6 out of 10 on the RPE. Basically, that 1 to 10 scale, the 6 equals about 4 reps in reserve. The 8 equals about 2 reps in reserve. So you can look at that 2 to 4 reps in reserve as a solid foundation of I'm in the right lifting zone. I'm lifting the right amount of weights to get a hypertrophy-based, bigger muscle mass developing lift, but I'm not risking the higher injury rate or the higher damage rate of a 9 or a 10 with individuals that are aged, that aren't great technical lifters at this point because they haven't had decades of practicing it, like someone who started in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s even. We're now into our 70s, deconditioned, untrained, brand new to this. Do we want to push to that high intensity and roll the dice? No. But do we want to work with a good challenging load? Absolutely. Why? As everything I've just shown you, the closer we get to that 6 to 8 or that 60 to 80% or a 2 to 4 reps in reserve, the closer we get to that, however you want to select that load, the better opportunity to build the muscle mass and be dynamic and be explosive and build stronger bones and keep all that motor unit firing function to be able to be dynamic and reduce the fall risk, but also keep daily life activity, keep daily life function, keep them walking with confidence, carrying their own groceries, doing all the things that we do on a daily basis. Basically maintaining independence and not being this huge fall risk that is now at a potential at any moment of catastrophic injury and ruining the day, for all family members involved. Just this last week, we were at a play and I caught my mom probably 2 or 3 times from taking a fall. And I just kept thinking, we don't need to go to the emergency room right now, right? So I just locked onto her and just anywhere I went, I was holding on to her. And my mom's like, this is so nice. My son, he's all nice. And I'm like, don't fall down, lady. That's the whole thing. We got too many people here and we have too much stuff planned over the next couple of days with the holidays. Like, we don't need to go to the emergency room right now. Let's keep you upright. And that's the intention here through the aging process is let's just get as far away from those potential opportunities as we can. So when we kind of look at this disability threshold, you see that muscle mass come up through early life into adulthood. That's right around that 25, 30, 35, somewhere in there. We're going to start to decline. This top line, okay, right up here, this top line, those are individuals that resistance train on a regular basis, 2 to 4 times a week. They do, there's my thumbs up, they do rucking or walking or tennis or golf or swimming or biking or hiking or something on a cardiovascular component to help improve their heart health and their lungs and just train their circulatory system, their cardiovascular system. They engage in social opportunities and they keep their cognition and their brain stimulus good, their antidepressive opportunities good. They do these things to keep their mind and their bodies strong. They eat well, they sleep well, they hydrate well, they recover well, they focus on all the aspects of improving and maintaining a good, healthy practice of daily life. And that keeps them well above that disability threshold. As soon as we get into the disability threshold, what does that mean? It means someone else is now going to be in charge of helping maintain you. You have now come to a point where you are no longer independent. You are now dependent on someone else. And this could be using canes and walkers and just, crutches, tools, what they are close. And then you get to that point where you're like, well, now someone's got to push me around in a wheelchair. Now someone has to go do my shopping for me. Now someone needs to help me get up and get dressed every day. Now someone has to help me in the restroom. Those kinds of things can be very demeaning and very embarrassing for the aging individual, but you've lost this function. And you shouldn't. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean that, well, this is what aging is. It isn't. It really isn't. Many people think that it is, and they are wrong. You should be able to maintain your independence of your ADLs, activities of daily living, and your daily life functions, DLFs. You should be able to do that. What are those? ADLs at its basics. You're eating, dressing, toileting, transferring, showering, bathing, all that stuff. The very basic components of just keeping your body able. And then your daily life functions are up and down from stairs, up and down off the floor, rowing, pushing, pressing, lunging, twisting, squatting, hinging, all those movements, transferring, carrying loads back and forth. Okay, general, more dynamic locomotion type stuff. Again, daily life things, basic things, but all of those independent. You can do them on your own. And just picture after picture of these. I just took as many of these as I could find, all showing the exact same thing, all the different research components, all the different, again, across the bone. If this is muscle mass, if it's bone density, it's the same thing. It's going to come up and we're going to start to decline, but how deep on that threshold? How far is it going to drop off? When you get into pregnancy and menopause, you're going to have opportunities for all these things to decline as well. You're going to need to train through those and all the way up through retirement and all this. We don't want to have, just because you're getting older, we don't want to have you in that disability threshold just based on, well, this is the aging process and this is what happens. You see all these different examples, again, the same chart, but kind of giving the idea. I want it to sink in how relevant the idea of resistance training is. We have a better idea of what work capacities, what loads we should be working with. And let me go back to this one here. What loads we should be working with, what reps in reserve we should have. And ideally, so this is where the question came in of like, well, I'm 60 years old now. Should I be seeking out the heaviest load that I can lift? And the answer is no, not the heaviest load, but the heaviest load that you can do with proper technique, doing all of the reps that I've asked for, 8 reps or 10 reps, whatever we've asked for, with a 2 to 4 rep in reserve, right? And you can do the tempo that I'm lifting and that I'm asking the lift to be done at, which means a deadlift. Up for 1 second, down for 3, 2, 1. Up for 1, 3, 2, 1. If you can do that, lifting tempo, 4 seconds, 1 up, 3 down, for all 8 reps with perfect technique. And when you get done, I say, how many more could you do? And you're like 2, maybe 3, at most 4. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. And as long as you can keep doing that, I don't care what the load is. Is it your best effort? No. Here was the criteria. Can you lift the load for the number of reps that I asked? Can you do it with proper technique? Can you hit the lifting tempo that I asked for? At the end of all of that, do we have 2 to 4 reps in reserve? Yes, 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 yes. It's the right load. If the answer is no, I could do way more, it's not heavy enough. Increase your weight. If it's I can only do one more, I was borderline, lighten it up. I don't care how heavy that load is. Meaning, what I mean by that is, if your best deadlift when you were 30 was 200 pounds, and when you're 40, it's 175, and then when you're 50, it's 150, and then when you're 60, it's 125, and then when you're 70, it's 100, and then when you're 80 years old, it's only 75 pounds, could you do the reps I asked? Did you do it with the proper technique? Did you hit the lifting tempo that I wanted? Did you have 2 to 4 reps in reserve? That's the exact right load. So keep looking at that 3 to 4 things of criteria, okay? Tempo and basically having the reps in reserve. That's kind of the same thing, but, well, not really, but it's, you get my point. Like we always want that 2 to 4 rep in reserve. For the majority of people, we're not training you for maximum competition. These are just regular folks we're training. That load, whatever that load ends up being, is right in your wheelhouse for increasing strength, bone density, muscle mass, coordination, strength, stability, power production, spatial awareness, all the things that we're trying to check the boxes for. If you hit that criteria, we're there. At 30, that criteria works. At 80, that criteria works. And if you go, well, that's a very broad spectrum of, yeah, that's what the research shows. At any age, this is going to be beneficial. That's why it's so awesome. I can take anybody through the door. You're 20, you're 50, you're 90. This is going to work. What lifts do we do? That's a different story. That's another discussion. But how do we load it? We've answered that question. I hope you enjoyed this today. Any comments or questions, feel free to hit me up in the comment section down below. Please subscribe, like, share. Make sure you don't miss any of the information we put up for you here in the future. Much love from the Linkul household to all of you in the holiday season here. I hope you're all having a great time with your families, being safe and enjoying yourselves. We're sending you lots of love and appreciation here from the Linkuls and TOA out to all of you. Have a lovely day. Continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia, and we'll see you next time. Peace.